You're listening to Reverb Radio.
Hey, yo, Josh, let me get a little bit of reverb.
Yeah. J. Will.
Yeah, I'm about that lifestyle. I talk green work, repping it all over. It's right on the t-shirt. Been for a lifetime. Yeah, that's a long pass. Figure I would show some love right on the podcast. Turn this up loud and make sure you don't do nothing else. Cause if you're listening to us, then you're improving your health. My name is J. Will. Welcome, repping it, J. Will. Been for a repping it, been for
Summerslam is just around the corner, so we're going to do a little Summerslam show. Welcome everyone to some wrestling Reverb. Kevin, you are not in your usual spot, house sitting, so let's record some Reverb, eh?
Yeah, man, I'm at my uncle's watching his cats. The one cat has left the room, so he's not to disturb me. It's funny, a little bit of a full circle moment. This house, my Uncle Scotty's house, is where I recorded that Royal Rumble show, our very first Reverb together.
Oh, full circle moment. Maybe it's your last Reverb, who knows?
Oh my God.
I'm just telling you live on air that you've fucking fired.
It's a reality show? Oh my God.
It's like Big Brother. You're evicted. Oh God, a Big Brother reference. Yikes. Well, welcome everyone into some Wrestling Reverb. We're going to, like I said, talk some SummerSlam moments, matches, all of that good stuff, because we're, a week and a bit out from this year's SummerSlam, which I seen somewhere. I've only just finished work. Kevin's only just finished work, but I seen somewhere that apparently SummerSlam this year is not going to take place at the PC. It's going to be at some undisclosed location with no fans. That's what I read.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting. Maybe just for a different backdrop, just for a change of pace. Honestly, even without fans, it still might be cool to be like, outside somewhere in an arena somewhere. I don't know if obviously no one really knows where it's gonna be, and part of me wonders if WWE actually has a location locked down yet.
Probably not.
No, honestly, like obviously, if they could be a little. They could be a little, lenient with that because they have the PC obviously as a fail-safe if they can't find a spot. Yeah. But I think they will. I mean, there's got to be somewhere they could do it.
Surely. It would have been kind of cool, I'm not going to lie, to see it at like a beach. Or
that
would
be cool. That would be the biggest party of the summer. Where else but on a beach?
Yeah, it's summer in the States, so it's like, come on, go with that. But it is what it is. I can imagine they'll get somewhere, but if not, like you said, the PC's a nice little backdrop. We talked about SummerSlam last week. I'm sure we'll talk about this year's SummerSlam more next week. But yeah, let's talk some SummerSlam memories, and we're kind of saying pre-chat. The difference is what SummerSlam is the second biggest WWE event of the year. But when you say like WrestleMania moments and memories, like you said, Kevin, the pre-chat, it's like, it's easy to be like, yeah, this happened at WrestleMania 24. And I remember exactly what I was doing. With SummerSlam, it's a little different. You've got to kind of, like, the memories are there, but you've got to kind of do a little bit of research to be like, okay, it happened at this SummerSlam. And honestly, I think SummerSlam is more known for better wrestling than WrestleMania. Like, there's better matches in, like, bell to bell, but it's not as big, obviously, as WrestleMania. Here's a little side question. Do you think, well, obviously, when we get back to normal without COVID, do you think SummerSlam should take place in stadiums?
Well, I think they're probably trending that way. I think they could. I think, maybe you do. I kind of like what the Rumble's doing with like baseball fields.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a different vibe. But I think you could definitely fill a stadium, maybe a soccer stadium, because they're like 30, 40,000 seats.
Yeah, they could do that though.
Obviously, WrestleMania fills like the 75, 80,000 football 80,000 seat football stadiums. That might be a little tough, but I think they could probably do it. But if they want a sure thing, yeah, like you could put them in like a soccer stadium or something, like, like a smaller stadium somewhere, and it might have its own unique feel to it, as opposed to maybe just doing what WrestleMania does and being like sort of the same thing. They could find its own little niche. But I definitely think you made a good point. SummerSlam always felt like sort of, I've seen this used before in articles. It was like kind of like the smart fans WrestleMania, where like you get like the good match quality and like the really good wrestling, as opposed to like the spectacle that is WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think that's how I kind of view SummerSlam. When you actually go through SummerSlam, you're like, damn, there's been some good wrestling matches. And you're right, it might be like that kind of smart fan kind of deal, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I think SummerSlam, I think the big 4 pay-per-views should be held in bigger arenas or stadium-like atmospheres, with WrestleMania being in the big stadiums and smaller stadiums for maybe Survivor Series, SummerSlam, Rumble, all of that kind of deal. So I'd like to see that in the future, but who really knows what's going to go on. Before we talk about like favorite memories and moments of SummerSlam, we're pretty close to 1 year ago being SummerSlam 2019, and a damn good show. If you remember that show, we opened with Becky and Natty, we had Trish and Charlotte, Seth and Brock, we had many different things throughout that show. SummerSlam 2019, Kev, what are your memories of that show?
Oh man, it feels like so long ago. I think my biggest takeaway is just how far we've come. Since remember SummerSlam 19 when Seth Rollins was like the conquering hero and he beat Brock and
and that was after Mania and after he got cashed in on again. And I remember him at the very beginning of that match getting booed, and he turned that crowd around. It was in Toronto, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. And yeah, he did. He won that crowd over. And then, you fast forward to where we are now, and he's literally like as far from that person as he could be. And that might be a good thing. I don't know. I know it's not for everybody, but I've enjoyed the Monday Night Messiah. I think Seth's a really good little like smarmy heel.
Me too. I think he's really good. Yeah, it's been a year though. To think that a year ago we were getting Trish Stratus and Charlotte Flair, that's pretty bizarre. In Trish's final match.
That was a good match too. It gets a little slept on sometimes, honestly. I think I don't know if we talk about it as much, but it was very good. Yeah. And I think SummerSlam 19 wasn't. I could be wrong, but this was the Fiend's first like actual match.
The Fiend's debut against Finn Balor.
So that's probably my most resonant moment, I would say, is the Fiend. Seeing him sort of wrestling the Fiend style match for the first time.
Yeah, we got the Finn in all white gear. I remember Finn in all white gear for some reason, and just being like, "What in the hell is this?" And it was just so cool. To think where the Fiend has been in a year is pretty crazy. All the ups and downs, I guess you could say.
Yeah, he's really been all over the map and all over the spectrum in terms of he's hot, he's cold, he's yes and he's no, Katy Perry. But I honestly I'm glad that they seem to have corrected course here after with the Fiend after the Goldberg debacle.
Oh, bully. We'll talk more about The Fiend and that, I guess, next year, but I just wanted to bring up 2019 because it was a really good show, so I just was like, meh. But Kev, let's talk about some matches throughout the years of SummerSlam. I know I've got a few on my brain. You said you've got some on your brain. We'll start with you. What's your first kind of, if you think SummerSlam and you think of a great wrestling match, what kind of are you thinking?
Oh, there's a lot. We've gotten a lot of different varieties of wrestling matches at SummerSlam that could be considered great. We had an Elimination Chamber at SummerSlam. We had Shawn Michaels' return at SummerSlam in 2002. That's obviously a classic on just about anybody's list. I'm gonna go a little more recent though, and this is probably the best SummerSlam match I could think of off the top of my head, that I would compare to anything else. 2016, AJ Styles and John Cena.
Oh yeah.
So and this has obviously those are just two huge names, and we got the straight up singles match between them. I know they did something at Money in the Bank, the pay-per-view prior.
The club got involved, didn't they?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was. Yeah, I don't think it was. It was not a clean finish or whatever. This was more of a traditional, just straight up wrestling match, and it was good.
It was
I know,
good.
obviously, the Rumble match they did at the next at the Rumble in the beginning of 2017, it gets a lot of shine, and I think a lot of people consider that to be the superior of the two.
Yeah.
I just think that like the idea of AJ Styles, this dude who literally was just a TNA stalwart, a workhorse for so long, but you never thought he would. I never thought he would ever come over to WWE. He was one guy I thought we would never see, and he comes over, and within 6-7 months of his debut, he's beating John Cena clean at SummerSlam.
That's crazy.
That, doesn't it blow my? I remember when he kicked out of the Super AA from the top, and I like almost I almost just like lost my balance. My motor skills were gone because I just like no way.
John Cena has been in a lot of good SummerSlam matches. If you talk about Bryan and Cena from 2013, how good was that? People
No, that
don't-
was a great,
like
absolutely
I don't feel
great
like they
match.
and then the cash in after that moment where Bryan got cashed in on with the Triple H pedigree and Randy Orton, like that's a great moment.
That is a genuinely great moment. Obviously, it's a moment that sticks in a lot of people's hearts because they Daniel Bryan got done dirty. But shit, man, every good story has to start somewhere,
And that was the start of the Bryan to that SummerSlam to Mania 30 run.
Yeah,
That is crazy.
Bryan versus the Authority, one of the all-time great stories, I'd say, not just of recent years, ever that WWE has told.
Mm-hmm.
Started right there. Started with Triple H, the pedigree, the cash in, Randy Orton. That's where the Authority was born.
Yeah, and there's also been SummerSlam has been home to some head scratches. Nexus and WWE comes to mind from 2010, 2011,
Yeah.
2010, 2010, 2011.
2010, it was 2010, that's
2010. The 7-on-7. Bryan, that great moment with Daniel Bryan being the 7th member of Team WWE, or the 6th member, whatever it was. 6-on-6, 7-on-6, I don't know what it was.
right. I want to say 7. Not really important. But that was just such a
head scratcher, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that was that's gonna be when you look at Cena's legacy and you have the detractors who say he put down talent. That's like Exhibit A. That really didn't make much sense, especially like Wade Barrett was so good and he was so hot, and the whole Nexus crew was hot. Obviously, I like that match
it literally killed him.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that match because just the collection of talent on Team WWE, just a weird bunch
Bret
of dudes.
Hart was in it.
Yeah, 2010 was that weird year where Bret Hart finally embraced the WWE, and he wrestled at WrestleMania 26, and he won the United States title.
Oh my god, dude, that match at 26 went for so long.
But yeah, 26 is not a WrestleMania that really sticks in my head, but that's one of the defining moments because
it was so long, that match. It just kept going on and on. I was like,
so
Bret, just
drawn
end
out.
him.
It was so drawn out. But yeah, Hart was on that team. Edge and Jericho were, and there was that great moment. I don't remember which Raw it was beforehand, but like it looked like they were gonna walk out on the team, Edge and Jericho, and they got to the top of the ramp, and they looked at each other and just shook their heads and ran back to the ring to fight off the Nexus. Like I was so invested in that storyline because you really hadn't seen anything like the Nexus before. Just these group of dudes, you didn't really know who they were unless you were a diehard NXT fan, which at that point no one was, and. That was reality show NXT, and just these guys just took over and beat up everybody. They took they weren't just beating up the lower level talent. They went right after John Cena on night 1. Daniel Bryan got fired because he choked out Justin Roberts.
Yeah, it's a crazy time, but it's one of those things that I'll always say is like the weirdest decision booking wise for me. It always sticks out in my brain of like, why didn't the Nexus win that one? I'll never understand. I'll never truly understand why they just didn't win, because it could have made them. It would have went a lot further if they won there. And then eventually, obviously, they would have got defeated at some stage. But it was just weird to do it there. But that is one moment that always sticks out in my brain of SummerSlam. Something that I don't know if, well, obviously you'll remember, but for me, the first thing that kind of sticks out is other than Triple H and Shawn, their street fight or unsanctioned, whatever it was in 2002, because that is just a classic match. It is 35 minutes long, and it is so good. It's just wearing down Shawn Michaels to the point where he's just, they're working the back and everything like that. That match is so good. For anyone that actually hasn't seen that match, it should be on your list of classics that you go back and watch.
Have to. You absolutely have to. It's so good. It's so
such
good.
It holds up really, really well. I watched it not all that long ago, and I was like, oh, this is a damn good match. But for me, something maybe at that point in 2014, the biggest women's match of all time at SummerSlam, in SummerSlam's history at least, is Brie Bella and Stephanie McMahon. A match that could have main evented that show, and I mean that with all my heart. That could have went on last. It was the main story going into that SummerSlam. And Stephanie and Brie is a match that, why it's not a 5-star classic, I'm not hyping it up like that, but it's a pretty good match. And obviously the moment with Nikki and Brie, and I know that let's not think about what happens after. That moment itself, the crowd popped. We got home. They had a good match. Stephanie ended up winning. And I think it's kind of it's a little underrated in the terms of actually how good of a story they told in that match, because it's really good.
Yeah, I'll give you that. And I think it is a little underappreciated, just in terms of, like, obviously you're not going to get them out there throwing, Hurricane Ron and all that crazy stuff. Stephanie, though, knows how to tell a story in the ring. We've seen it before.
And
we've
so
seen
does Brie Bella. Listen, Brie Bella gets a lot of bad rap because of that last couple of months she had when she come back with Nikki before Evolution. And I understand she did hurt a couple of people. We've said our piece on that. But Brie Bella, everybody has said this, that Brie Bella, everyone that has worked with Brie Bella has said she has underrated psychology in the ring. She's very good. Sasha Banks has said it. Becky Lynch has said it. They said if they want to wrestle anyone again, a lot of them say Brie, and I don't know if people realize that Brie, and by the way, Brie Bella threw a mean drop kick. She did a good drop kick. But yeah, her and Stephanie had a little underappreciated for the story they told in that match. I agree with you there.
Yeah, for sure. And it was a great story. And yeah, like that probably could have been the main event of the show. And I SummerSlam 14 is on my list as well. Yeah. For a different moment. And I think it was the main event of the show. I don't remember. I can't see why it wouldn't have been, though, because it was Brock Lesnar and John Cena.
Yeah, that was that year, wasn't it?
That was that year. And I don't think I've ever watched a show and or a match or just whatever. Well, I not very often, where I'm just completely baffled in a good way, but completely baffled by what.
Was that the year that he just killed him? Didn't he? He just
threw
him around. That was the first Brock Lesnar match at that kind of rate that we see a lot now of suplexes and just pretty much a one-sided. That was a pretty one-sided main event from memory. Cena didn't get a lot in, did he?
Cena got like literally nothing in. It was an absolute squash. And I remember the whole idea of it. Like, Lesnar at that point, I think his last match at that point was retiring The Undertaker at Mania. And then he gets the world. I never thought, when Lesnar came back in 2012, I never thought he would be like a world title guy. I just thought he would show up every once in a while and just have like a special attraction match. I didn't think he would still be here this long, honestly. And even back then, I was like, he's probably gone soon. So for him to come back, you had Cena, who had the double belts on. He won him at Money in the Bank. He was walking around. He was the champ. Yeah. And Lesnar just came in and just dissected him. The greatest, arguably the greatest of all time, on your short list for the best to ever do it. And he just got dismantled. It was insane. It was just unbelievable. And I was hyped for it, because what do we do? It's like, where do you go from here?
Yeah, Brock is someone that's had a lot of good memories at SummerSlam. If you go back to 2002, that same SummerSlam as Shawn and Triple H, you also get Brock winning the Undisputed Championship from The Rock.
Oh, yeah.
King of the Ring winner.
His first year in the business.
Yeah, and he's Undisputed Champ. Had an okay match with Rock. I'm not saying it was the greatest wrestling match ever, because it definitely wasn't, but him and Rock had an okay main event from memory. And Brock won, and I don't think a lot of people were expecting Brock to beat The Rock at SummerSlam. So it's kind of cool to see Brock and we've also had Brock and Randy Orton when Brock destroyed Randy Orton's face in 2017 or 18. I don't know when it was.
Yeah, that was 16. That was the same. That was the same year as Cena Styles.
Oh, it was too. Yeah. We had that, and he destroyed Randy Orton's head. That was pretty brutal in this era.
That was a wild one to be on Twitter for, because
it was because everyone was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, everyone's just like, was he supposed to do that? Was that part of the plan? Yada yada. I honestly was like, dude, did Brock just go rogue?
Yeah. Well, he got open the hard way. Like he
with those elbows. And he got into a fight with Jericho backstage afterwards, because Jericho was probably like, dude, what the fuck are you doing out there?
Yeah, what the hell? That is another Brock. Again, Brock's had a lot of cool SummerSlam. Him and Punk. Another match that's kind of slept on, to be honest, is Brock.
Really good one.
Yeah, a really good match. I believe Brock's fought Triple H at SummerSlam. Wasn't it called The Perfect Storm or something like that?
It was. That was 2012
really
when Brock had that was his second match back after he lost to Cena at Extreme Rules inexplicably.
Yeah, he lost and then fought Hunter. So
and he came back.
Yeah, and
broke Triple H's arm.
Yeah, and Shawn Michaels. Remember, and he broke Shawn Michaels' arm.
Yeah, that was Kimura. That was Kimura Brock when he was just like breaking arms. He kind of went away from that for a while. He still busted out. He tapped out Cain Velasquez with it the last I remember.
Oh God, Cain Velasquez, TBT. Remember
that was literally the worst match I've ever seen in my life. But we won't talk about it.
Oh, we've talked about that before. But yeah, let's go back to some SummerSlam moments and memories. I'm trying to rack my... Hey, SummerSlam 2000, the very first TLC.
I knew that was gonna come up. They had a comp between somebody. You know, that is one of the all-time great SummerSlam matches, and without that, you don't get TLC 2 at WrestleMania.
I know everybody. TLC 2 is the superior between 1 and 2. I get it, but TLC 1 is still very good. Especially, I could imagine watching it in that time when really nothing has been like that before. The only thing you can really compare it to is WrestleMania 2000, the Triangle Ladder match, which had elements of TLC in it, but this was just on another level. TLC 1 is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could throw those three teams in the ring in literally any stipulation and get some out. But yeah, that was the first time you'd seen ladder matches and tables matches, but like, this was a whole nother level. This was literally just like a jungle gym of pain.
Yeah. We've had multiple TLC matches over SummerSlam's history. CM Punk and Jeff Hardy, if you remember, in 2009.
2009?
Yeah, 2009. It was the one of the last Jeff Hardy matches of his second WWE run. With a great story with CM Punk, the kind of straight edge versus the what would you call him, addict? I guess.
Yeah.
That's how you would call it. I didn't want to.
That wasn't really good. I remember when Jeff left. That was tough to stomach because CM Punk was such a freaking douche. He was so good. That's my favorite Punk. Straight edge savior, straight edge society Punk is like I know he's had a lot of different incarnations throughout, iterations of his character throughout the years. But like when he was, he grew out the hair and the beard, and he had Gallows and Serena, and at one point Joey Mercury under a mask. That was the best for me. When he 2000, when he was just cutting promos and just saving people. Yeah. And that was such a good match they had at SummerSlam. That is another one that a little slept on, I think. But that was also the same match where the lights went out and Taker was there, or was that a different show?
No, that was because Punk was standing over Jeff with the title, and then the lights went out, and Jeff and Undertaker had switched places. And Taker was there, and then blah blah blah.
Yeah, I watched that moment like the other day. It's a good one. Taker just everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, And 2009 SummerSlam was also the return of the DX Army, if you remember.
I do.
That
Yeah, DX had a good. I was always a sucker for DX. Obviously, in
too.
2006, when I was just getting into wrestling, they were doing their thing, and then they brought it back. They got the band back together. I remember. I think it was this run, but they were doing like the little sketches on Raw where like Shawn Michaels had left WWE and was like working as a chef somewhere.
And he super kicked a small child, a small little girl.
They had so much fun together, man. But yeah, that was a guy. They actually, that was like the only, I don't know if it was at SummerSlam, but this is the only time where they actually won the tag titles was on that run.
Yeah, it was at TLC of that year, I believe, against Jericho.
Yeah.
I can remember that little time. But yeah, that was 2009 SummerSlam. Another cool memory that I have of SummerSlam, not so much for the match. I know the match was okay, but SummerSlam 2004, Randy Orton became the youngest world champion in history. Is it still stand? I don't know if there's.
I believe, yeah, because he's the youngest world champ. I think. I mean, I would say so because I know Lesnar's the youngest WWE champ.
Yeah,
but
he's the youngest world heavyweight in the main event of SummerSlam 2004. Defeated Chris Benoit. And Orton, I mean, he only held it for a little while because Evolution turning on him the next night, and then Triple H happened. But
that's the coronation of the first really, really great, well, not the first, but like that's the first of many world titles and many great runs for Randy Orton, and so you can't ignore it.
Yeah, I remember watching him and Benoit like not all that long ago, and it's actually a pretty good match, as you can imagine. Chris Benoit and Randy
Orton was just like, Orton was still young and up and coming, and he's probably still really hungry at that point to prove himself, and obviously Benoit is a technician of the highest degree in the ring, so you're gonna get good shit out of them.
I mean, Benoit never. I've always said that
too. Yeah,
Benoit is one of probably pure technical wrestling, just wrestler standpoint, he's probably one of the best I've ever seen. I've said that many times.
Yeah, he was so good. So good.
God. And then everything else, and then it kind of just ruins it. But that's another moment that I know from SummerSlam. I'm trying to rack my brain on a few more that I had.
Yeah, I'll throw a couple. We're talking about The Undertaker at 2009. One of my favorite SummerSlams, probably because I was watching it with a good group of people and it was fun. We bought the pay-per-view. SummerSlam 2008, when Undertaker fought Edge in the Hell in a Cell.
Oh yeah,
and fun match, definitely a fun match.
I like a good. That was like when the Hell in a Cells kind of changed a little bit, wasn't it? When they went more of a like a hardcore match type of deal inside the cell. They still had cell spots, but there was lots of tables and ladders used.
Yeah,
and I remember that was one of the first ones that did it.
Yeah, there was definitely more of like there were ladders and tables, and like they broke one of the cell walls. But you're right, there was definitely more of like a instead of using the cell.
The cell was like an environment around it.
Yeah, and it made sense with that feud. Obviously, throughout 2008, Undertaker and Edge were really hot in a feud. The Undertaker beat Edge at Mania 24. Then Edge fired or banished Taker from the WWE for a while.
They had a TLC match, didn't they? They had a fantastic
one night stand. That was awesome. That was a fantastic
match. Taker in a TLC was wild.
They had the Hell in a Cell at SummerSlam, and great, very good match, definitely. And then at the end, Taker slammed Edge to hell.
Literally, he threw him through the ring and then set it on fire.
I remember I was 12 years old, and I'm watching with a bunch of dudes, a bunch of my friends, and it was like a mix of people that were wrestling fans like me, and wrestling, people that were like, not really, like crazy into wrestling. And that happened. And I remember like there was like a little bit of a silence, and someone like laughed kind of nervously, like, "What's going on?" Because the ring's just on fire, and Edge just literally
he just set him on fire. And then Edge come back later that year at Survivor Series with a full beard. He looked homeless.
He did. Oh yeah, but God, Edge was so good. And that same SummerSlam was another. This is a slept-on match, and it probably wasn't like I'd have to go back and rewatch it. Probably wasn't that good, honestly. But just the names involved. This was like the first yeah, I know they went on to feud like a year and a half later, but Cena Batista at SummerSlam '08
Was
was
that
a
when
good one.
Cena broke his
He
like?
broke his neck, or he slipped it. He herniated a disc, or I
Yeah,
think
because
he
he went for
shattered a
the
disc in his
he
neck.
went for like the famous deal off the top rope, and
He
Batista
he
caught him in a
bombed.
power bomb, and it was oof,
Yeah, that was a
was
good
nasty.
match. I was also the only person in the room rooting for Batista over Cena.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah, I can't
I was,
remember what I was going for.
yeah,
I remember
that's a
that
good
though.
one. And that's just like, when you're watching wrestling, it was like the first time where, well, not the first time, but like Batista and Cena were the two guys at the time.
Yeah,
Obviously,
they were
Taker
like
and Edge
the
were doing their own thing.
they were like the almost to a certain degree they were the two main people on the opposite brands for a long time, like Raw
Yeah,
and SmackDown, and then
and you get the interpromotional show like SummerSlam back when they still did it like that. And you got these two guys together. They won the tag titles on Raw like the week or two beforehand, if I remember correctly, because WWE
of
loves
course
to
they
do that.
did.
Yeah, they had a fun little
Yeah,
match.
no, they certainly did. I remember something else from SummerSlam, which is not so much for the match, but for the meaning of it. It was the Divas Revolution 3-on-3-on-3.
Yeah,
In
oh yeah,
2015 with the
15.
Team Bella, PCB, and Team Bad. And the match was okay. I remember them getting a lot of time, to be honest, and it was like, okay, that's a good thing. And then obviously where it kind of morphed into, but that was like the culmination of the three teams at that stage.
Yeah, at that point we didn't know what we at that point, the skeptic in me would have kind of just thinking like, all right, well, yeah, you had the big angle on Raw, and this is the payoff. And I didn't really know where they would go from there, but geez, like look where they've gone from there.
And Becky Lynch won that match, and everyone was like, oh, Becky got the win. I remember that. I remember Becky.
Hey man,
Yeah,
it's all long game. It's all long
yeah, it's
term.
all long because everyone was like, Charlotte was kind of positioned as like I don't want to say the leader of that group, but she was certainly the one with the most attention on her, I would say.
She was definitely the one that was positioned. Like, they wanted you to keep your eye on her over really anybody else of the nine. But like, just, everyone took the ball and ran with it at that point. Like,
Yeah,
you were getting good work. You were obviously getting good work from the Bellas and from Alicia. Alicia Fox is probably, having like a very good career moment.
the
Obviously,
time of her career, probably.
yeah, she's always been someone who like she'll put on an underrated match for you.
Do you know that was meant to be Natty in that spot?
That kind of makes more sense, honestly.
Natty was meant to be there, and then Natty had some family issues that took her away, and she had to step back, and they put Fox in her role.
That kind of makes sense. I feel like Natty would have not necessarily fit. I mean, it may have made more sense just from like a
wrestling standpoint.
Yeah, I guess. But
not that
I don't
Alicia
know.
Fox was. I don't think Alicia Fox was bad ever. I really
No,
don't.
she's
I think
always
she's a
been
little
sort
bit
of, like,
kind of underappreciated. Yeah, especially at that
Really?
time.
Hey, the meanest Northern Lights suplex
Oh,
in the game. I
one
don't
of the
think
best
there's
bridges.
a question.
One of the best bridges. William Regal even said so. So that's the debate is out the window because William Regal is
yeah.
one of the best to ever
That
do
was-
it. And if he says it's good, then it's fucking good. Okay.
She hit a bridge.
The point of the toes. Oh, I can't. I'm like, that's the kind of shit in wrestling that I'm like, oh, I love that. I love that. But Alicia Fox, yeah, like she was in that, and I just remember that match being, again, nothing like out of the like blue amazing, but it certainly wasn't bad. And I remember this one spot that was really nasty, and it was Nikki Bella doing an Alabama slam to Paige on the outside, and Paige's head just went tonk. And I was like, well, that was nasty. And I don't know why I remember that spot from that match, but I can literally visualize it. But that just makes me miss seeing Paige wrestle. But Paige just had Paige wrestled AJ Lee at SummerSlam 2014 to win her second Divas Championship. Paige and AJ had quite the little run in 2014. They had a couple of matches.
They really did. That's, obviously you look at where the Divas title went, and when the momentum started to come in, and it started to come in before then, for sure. AJ and Caitlyn probably got the ball rolling better, as good as anybody. But that would definitely Paige and AJ throughout 2014, obviously starting at the night after Mania, Well, obviously that was obviously a pivotal moment because I never thought they would do something like put the belt on someone their first night in the company. That was crazy. But that's what they needed to do for people to be like, oh wow, we need to watch. And yeah, they had a good match at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And then they just the 3-on-3-on-3 was just what could have just been the culmination of a good story instead became a launching pad for an even greater story, which it's not even a story anymore. It's the norm.
I mean, we've talked about this many times, and we'll say this till the cows come home. The women are carrying the WWE for me. Like, not even close. It's not even close. The only thing that comes close is probably the angle we've seen on Raw this week with Randy and Rick and Drew.
Yeah, they're doing good.
That was really good.
So Randy and the women.
Randy and the women. That's what's kind of carried me through this era of wrestling, this last 6 months with COVID and everything like that. There's really nothing coming close to me within wrestling. It's like the women are main eventing a lot, which is well earned and well deserved. NXT's women's division is golden. There's really not a bad egg. When you look at the actual women's division as a whole, sure there's a couple that kind of stand out as the best, and there's a couple that stand out like a little step behind, but no one is bad. There's no one I can't stand to the point where it's like you're just bringing down the divisions. And I think we're kind of morphing into current times, but hey, it is what it is. There's a triple brand battle royal going down on SmackDown, and it's just going to be nice to watch that and see all of the talent in one ring, and just kind of
it'll be sort of like a snapshot of where we are. And hey, man, if that battle royal shakes out a little something fresh for Bayley, and I think that's probably the idea.
Yeah, because to me it's like, why would you have someone from SmackDown win it if there's 3 brands here? I think the idea is
I don't think you would bring the women over from Raw from NXT if you were just gonna go the SmackDown route. Just make it a SmackDown battle royal in that case.
Exactly. Like,
and I think we said it before. Bayley's beating everyone on SmackDown, so bring someone else in for her to beat.
I don't know. There's obviously a part of me that's telling me that's going to be someone from NXT. I think that would be the route to go. However, we have some other people who have just popped back into the game. One of them being Mickie James.
Yeah.
One of the greatest women's superstars in the history of WWE, and I'll say that proudly. I think Mickie James is fantastic. A surefire Hall of Famer, has had some great moments. I know she had something with Natty. Not saying that Mickie James is going to win, but you'd assume that Mickie would be in this battle royal, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I feel like you gotta, it's just you can't have her back and leave her out the first big match that comes her way, or else it would be kind of pointless. I just wanted to touch on, so I didn't actually see the clip. I just saw tweets about it. Did Lana and Natty diss Mickie James on Raw because she didn't have a TikTok?
Correct.
That's like the greatest. That is like the perfect heel line for the era we live in.
Absolutely. And I'm like, I'm like, why wouldn't you have a TikTok? Get a TikTok, Mickie. And then they called themselves the best of all time, #boat.
I also think that's like the perfect heel thing to say, because everyone we've gotten into such a mode of everything. You have to put everything in terms of who's the GOAT, who's the greatest. I think boat is funny. I think just calling yourself the boat
and
is
it's
like
Natty
so
and it's Lana, and it's like they also something I do really appreciate about those two is they wear matching dresses. Okay, they're a team.
A little bit of camaraderie.
Mm-hmm. And it's like a weird, odd team that oddly kind of works. And it's nice that they're building a tag team. Get this, they're building a tag team with Lana and Natty, and they're not instantly wrestling the tag champs. They're just kind of floating and building, and it's a way for someone to be in the ring with Lana who can kind of do the kind of heavy lifting of a wrestling match, and Lana can just come in and do spots, be a great mouthpiece for Natty, because if there's anything for Natty that's a little bit lacking, it's her talking. Lana can talk. I think it's a weirdly, I know a lot of people won't agree with me, I think it's a really cool little unit.
It is a bit of an odd couple feel to it, but sometimes those are the best teams, right? You don't have to have a team that's like, two brothers or two people that are the same exact thing. You have you could have that dynamic where you have the wrestler and you have the talker. Lana is good on the mic, and I don't think there's any disputing that. And Natty could go in the ring, and I don't think there's any disputing that. Yeah, Natty is not always the best on the stick, although I think she's like got like the grating sort of like annoying voice down.
Yeah.
But I definitely think Lana adds something to her, and I think Natty adds a whole lot to Lana's game. I think at the end of the day, if you're complementing each other, that's how tag teams work. You're supposed
hide
to
your weaknesses and show your strengths. So I that's how I kind of see it. But her and Mickey had a little thing. Yes, they had the TikTok thing, and they called themselves the Boat. All of that stuff. I would assume that would all be involved in some way, shape, or form in the Battle Royal on SmackDown. But I would like to see someone from NXT. I know you would love to see someone like Tegan Nox take it home.
I would. Well, yeah. But I'd love. I would take anybody from NXT. I don't think there's a bad choice in NXT, and I think I'd love to see somebody we haven't seen again. A fresh matchup for Bayley.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity with NXT. Could you see something maybe in the route of maybe a Bayley versus Shotzi Blackheart?
Holy Christ, that would be fun.
Maybe some Shotzi or some Rhea Ripley.
I was thinking Rhea and Shotzi just because right before we started recording, I saw a clip of them from NXT going to battle with the Robert Stone brand.
By the way, can I just say I love Robert Stone. I think he's fantastic.
He's such a douchebag. He's
exactly,
perfect.
And he dresses like an absolute douchebag.
Oh my god! Obviously the red suit just in general is like was a wild move tonight.
It's bold.
But the fact that in his pants, like he doesn't wear pants that go all the way down to his shoes, so you can see like the bottom of his ankles and his calves. I don't know why that irks me so much.
He's just he is really good at being just some dude you just want to like backhand. Like I don't like.
I also
think
the
glasses
this might not really be through him, but this may have just been a lucky little thing by a photographer. But the photo of Robert Stone's face as he's getting his leg run over by Shotzi's tank is legitimately one of the best still frames I've seen in wrestling in a long time.
It's so good. And he kept tweeting, I got run over by a tank 5 days ago. I got run over by a tank 6 days. Then he got run over again. By the way, the Robert Stone brand, what an odd little... Like, Aaliyah, okay, fits with that very well. But Mercedes Martinez...
Mercedes...
It works! It works!
Well, yeah, now you have your muscle, and now you have the legitimacy. At first you look at Robert Stone and Aaliyah, and they're just like a little nuisance. They're just there to fill some time. They weren't going to make waves. Mercedes Martinez is a badass.
And
she
her
is
and Rhea, bitch, I'm like very into that. Like very into that.
That's just like power, just straight power on power, just beating each other. That's gonna be a fun one. So, Mercedes had the second Mae Young Classic. Ooh. Mercedes Martinez had my favorite match of the whole tournament, and that was with Miko Satomura. So I know she can go. She's been doing it on the independent scene for a long time.
And Rhea and her will have a physical match, like physical.
Yeah.
Ooh. But I think if I'm going to pick anyone for this triple brand battle royal to win and fight Bayley at SummerSlam, because I don't think Bayley will lose, I think it's going to be Mia Yim.
That doesn't excite me.
I know it doesn't. That'll excite Mags, by the way. But I think Mia Yim's going to win.
Oh, well, I mean, look, Mia Yim is talented.
It's a loss, and it won't hurt Mia. I don't think whoever wins here is beating Bayley. That's where I'm getting at.
That's a good point. You have to have someone that will look good in a loss.
I mean, they could go a different route, and Bayley might lose. Because I think it all depends on what Banks does as well. Does Banks beat Asuka? It's like the hardest question that we're going to have to answer going into SummerSlam, I think. So I think a lot of it depends on what happens there, to be completely honest, because we're going to get Bayley and Banks at some stage for a championship. It's a matter of which championship and where we go, because could Bayley losing the SmackDown Women's Championship drive her to want the Raw Women's Championship that Sasha Banks has? Or does it go the other way around, like Sasha loses, so therefore she has to chase Bayley? But I just flat out will just say my pick to win the Battle Royal is Mia Yim.
All right, well, I'll make a pick. Ruby Riott.
Ruby? Oh, okay. I wouldn't be.
I just think she's so good, and I know they're doing the mini reunion with her and Liv in the Riot Squad, and I was a big Riot Squad guy, so I'm all on board with that. But I think you could do that, but you could also give, and I wouldn't hate to see Liv either, but like I think Ruby and Bayley would be a great match, and I just think that Ruby it just deserves a little shine.
You know what? I hope they hold up with Liv Morgan. Like, just hold. Because I think she has potential to be a huge star, but you don't want to rush that.
Yeah,
I don't want to see her in any championship matches until she's going to win. That's how I see with Liv. So, I wouldn't be mad at Ruby. I really like Ruby Riott as well. I think that could be a lot of fun. Of course, there is the ever-lurking Shayna Baszler, who had a nice little Raw Underground moment. By the way, Raw Underground this week, I liked it a lot more than the first week. Like, a lot more. Except the dick grabbing thing. That was weird. I don't know why why did he do that?
Yeah, that Dabakato guy.
Why did they grab that man's penis?
Yeah, he's too big to need to do that, you know? He's just...
it was odd. But,
he's a guy, man.
A couple more things I want to touch on before we wrap this week up is we didn't talk about Retribution last week. Very mixed reaction from a lot of people. Some people think it's cool. Some people think it's just they look like teenagers just breaking the performance center with cinder blocks. Well, with 2 cinder blocks, and one of them wasn't really needed. The second one made me laugh.
That was like the ultimate I want to participate too,
yep.
cinder
like,
block.
Like it's like, oh, we got to go, but like I've got this cinder block, I'm just gonna throw it. And then the car and the thing on SmackDown I think was cooler than the thing on Raw. Cooler with air quotes, I guess, but there's a lot of opinions on it because I just don't. I don't know. Is it just going to be one of those things with WWE that they don't really have a plan for? It's just kind of something, or is it something they've wellly constructed? Because they can do it. It's just it's inconsistent with how they do it. But they do look like teenagers. I'm not gonna lie. They look like really young people, just like fucking shit up.
What if we just find out that this is not even part of the show and that just people are breaking into the performance center?
Oh my god, that would probably be awesome, to be completely honest.
Here's the thing with this, and this is what happens whenever you have somebody under a mask, somebody who you don't know who they are right away, your mind immediately jumps to who's it gonna be. Yeah. And you see the names floated. I've seen names floated. I've seen like Tommaso Ciampa. I've seen Dominic Dijakovic. I've seen CM Punk. That's probably just a pipe dream.
I've seen Chelsea Green. I've seen Indy Hartwell. I've seen
Carmella.
I haven't seen Carmella too. Yeah, I like how you say Carmella. Carmella.
I think that's what it's going to come down to, honestly, is who it is. You know, like I don't care if they do a bunch of like dumb stuff, but like if the leader pulls off his hood or his mask and it's like Karrion Kross, I'll lose my mind, and I don't care what they do. I'm more invested right now in the people involved than what they're actually doing. I think I don't think that whether you're throwing cinder blocks through glass doors or you're lighting shit on fire, I think it's the same as if you beat somebody up. You're causing a disturbance, a ruckus, if you will. But I think it'll be all for naught if that reveal is lackluster in any way. Like, could you imagine if like it was No Way Jose? Like, I would be so out. No offense.
Well, no offense, No Way. But I'm indifferent on it. There's some elements of it that I'm like, okay, I like this. I like that kind of mob mentality of like they could come in and I like the power out stuff. I also really liked how they used the power out stuff to their advantage with not having to actually kick Ric Flair in the head.
Yeah,
but it simulated it. You know what I mean? Like it looked good.
Yeah, that was a smart idea.
But yeah, I like that. But I don't mind them tearing up the ring and beating up cameramen and stuff like that. The camera angles were a lot. kind of was a little bit like made me feel a little bit sick, but that's WWE. That's Kevin Dunn in a nutshell. But I don't mind that stuff. It's the other stuff. Like, why are they torching a car? Like, I guess I just don't understand it. I don't hate this angle. I want to put that out there. I really don't hate this angle, and I really want to love this angle, but it's just something, there needs to be some more depth to it than just people. Like, why did they throw stuff into the performance center if they didn't want to break in? Like, they just threw the cinder blocks in and then ran off. I was like, isn't the whole idea is to get into the performance center so you can fuck shit up in there? Isn't that what you want to do? Like, I guess, yeah, that's what I'm at with it, is that I don't fully understand what's going on.
That's fair.
Another thing, are we meant to fully understand what's going on? Is that their intention? I don't know.
Yeah, it's another one. It's a wait and see thing. I do think I saw this on Twitter, and it kind of it made me laugh, but it also was kind of like, maybe they're not wrong. When you're doing the ninja stuff, and you have the retribution stuff, they kind of do like blend together just based on the way they're all dressed.
Yeah.
So maybe take that into consideration, because obviously the ninjas are part of a comedy gag, and the retribution is supposed to be serious. I just you got to be careful, because you don't want to have this retribution angle that you're meaning to be like this serious big thing, but you don't want it to devolve into comedy because people don't know who they're looking at.
Yeah, I understand that. I definitely get that. You don't want it to be. It's coming across to me in a lot of aspects as comedy. Like, I'm finding it funny when I don't think I should be.
Yeah, I don't think they want you to, but I understand why you would. Like, the cinder block thing was dumb, and it's funny.
That was so. It just, everything about that made me laugh so much. It's a different kind of angle, I guess.
Yeah, well,
it's different.
With some of these things, you just have to wait and see.
Yeah, just well,
I think some angles they write for the instant moment without much of a payoff, and some I think they write with a payoff, knowing that it's not going to be that big right away. There's some like, some moments where you're just like, holy shit, but then they don't go anywhere. And I'd rather see the other way around. I'd rather see maybe be a little underwhelmed by their debut of Retribution, but maybe in 4 to 6 weeks time, I'm like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, build to the holy shit, I guess. But we'll see where Retribution in all caps leads to. I guess I can put this out there, Kev. We're both very much for it working, but also we know where it could go, and it could go nowhere fast.
Yeah, that's just, you don't want that to happen. But
no. One more thing I want to add before we wrap it up is I threw out a tweet last night, my time, that I just wanted to throw at you, Kev, is if you were to cast a new version of The Shield using only female superstars, you can use any female in the wrestling industry, past or present. I kind of asked, and I got a big response. A lot of people were like, I've seen a lot of Rhea Ripley in there, and I've seen a lot of Sheeta, and I've seen a lot of Io Shirai. But Kev, I wanted to ask you, if you were to cast a new member of The Shield using only female superstars, just something fun to end the episode on, who would you choose?
I did see this, and I thought about it. I had a first draft of Shayna. I'm thinking more modern. I'm keeping it current because goddamn, you open the doors to everybody, and I will never ever stop thinking about it.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna keep it current. My first draft was Shayna, Sasha, and Sonya, and I kind of like the alliteration.
Oh yeah.
But then I kind of thought about it, and I think because when I look at the Shield, when I look at the OG Shield, I look at the mouthpiece Ambrose, I look at the heavy Reigns, and I look at like the tactician and the in-ring general Seth. And when I look at Sasha, Shayna, and Sonya, I feel like there's not clear.
There's a lot of there's like a lot of blending.
Yeah, I want Sasha in there for sure. And Sasha, I think, would be the mouthpiece. Even though she could obviously really, really wrestle, I look at Sasha as the mouthpiece. And then I would probably keep I would probably keep Sonya.
All
I'll
right.
keep Sonya. I don't think Shayna plays well. I know obviously Shayna's in like the Four Horsewomen, but that's really more of an off-screen thing.
Yeah.
I don't think Shayna would play well in a group the way these other. We've seen it with we've seen Sasha and Sonya have great degrees of success in tag teams. So I keep Sonya as sort of like the. I don't know. I'd probably actually use her more as an. I like her in-ring work. I think it's really obviously you could think of her as a heavy with her brute force, but I think I think she's a really good in-ring worker. So I'd keep her in that role. And then as the heavy, there's a couple of different names that go out there, but I definitely think Rhea fits the mold. She's obviously she can go in the ring too, but she is just a badass. And she cuts an intimidating figure, and she would be someone that people would love. And the Shield, the thing with the Shield is that they got like obviously when they debuted, people were like, "Oh, what the hell is going on?" Over time, even when they were still villains, people were like, they're cool. I love the Shield from like the minute they beat. Who was it? Ryback, D. Bryan, and Kane at TLC. I was like, oh, these guys rock. So I kind of get that. I kind of want that vibe. I know it's not like what you want necessarily from your villains, but I want a group where like you like, oh man, these women rock. So yeah, I think you get that with Sasha, with Sonya, and with Rhea. I think they could be villains definitely. All three of them have worked in that capacity. But they're also three you could root for.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I didn't put mine in the tweet, and I realized that after I tweeted, and I was like, oh, well, I'll just save it for Reverb this week. But I have three that's kind of like I've thought about a lot, and I kept it current as well, because like you, if you open up the doors of anybody, it's like, I don't think I'd be able to like select three women. But I would like Ruby Riott, Shotzi Blackheart, and Mercedes Martinez.
Mercedes was my second. Mercedes was the first cut from mine. Like she would have been in Rhea's spot, but I get the edge to Rhea because she's younger.
That's fair. I like Mercedes as like the muscle, the heavy. Ruby. I mean, Shotzi would probably be more of the technician, and then Ruby the speaker. But obviously Ruby could kind of float in between either. But I don't know why that gravitated towards me, but something about that just clicks. Like, think of the visual of that. They've got tattoos. They all are kind of like unapologetically themselves. And that was the Shield to a lot of the thing, was like, they're three different people that go together kind of weirdly well. And they just gel, and I think that could be a lot of fun. The size discrepancies between the three, there's just something about that I like.
Yeah, it's a good one. That is a good one.
It's a weird thing to think about though, and I put it out last night because I was like, let's just see, and then I got a lot of Rio was, like I said, a lot of Shayna, EO I seen a lot. I'm just kind of going through it now. But there's a lot of them popping up a lot. Nia I seen actually quite a lot. Charlotte I seen a little bit. Just all different kinds. There was a lot of Japanese wrestlers. There was a lot of AEW stars and Impact stars. There was a lot of diversity. Like I'm really I don't know. It was just something cool to put out, and people seem to like it.
No, so it's definitely a very intriguing concept, definitely. And maybe we'll see. It doesn't, obviously you're never gonna have a Shield again. You're never gonna have but you look at it like you're not gonna be the next
fantasy. Yeah, it's just something fantasy. You might see
a 3-woman group rise up sometime in the future that rivals the Shield in terms of prestige and popularity and impact.
Yeah, who knows? I just thought of it and was like, let's just tweet this, and a lot of people just seem to kind of pop in and give their kind of take. A lot of Jordan Grace, actually, a lot of Jordan. I was like, well,
oh yeah, Jordan Grace would be a good Roman Reigns role for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of good ones. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm thinking like strictly WWE, but if you open the doors to people like Jordan Grace, like Oh, I think Evilise from
Oh
she floats
yeah.
would be really good. I think Killer Kelly over in NXT UK and sort of the European circuit would be really good. Oh
Yeah,
yeah. See, this is what I mean, man. There's too many
I seen a
really
lot of
good
Bull
candidates.
Nakano. I was like, ooh, bull. I was like, yes, please. I was, oh man. There's if you open up to the doors of people like China and I seen a lot of Ronda actually too. Ronda Rousey come up a lot. I was like, whoa,
Oh, that'd be a
okay.
good one. And yeah, China. When I think of like classic names for this role, China's not the only, but like the easily the first person that comes to mind.
Paige is another person that I would like. I've seen a lot of too. Paige could be utilized in that role very well. But yeah, it was just like a fun little thing that I thought, hey, I'll just pop this out and see if anyone wants to participate. But just a little fun bit of fantasy to kind of rack your brain on. And I just like seeing people's diversity in answers. It's like no one had the same answer, but yeah, just a lot of Rhea was the name I seen a lot of, which is, I guess,
Well,
kind of cool.
she's got that Shield vibe to her, you know.
She
She wears
does.
the leather, the black, the badass, you know, the mosh pit style. The controlled chaos. You know, she really does fit the mold.
She does. She does. But yeah, just something cool to end this. I thought I'd bring it to the episode this week. But that'll kind of wrap us up. We talked SummerSlam. We talked a little bit about what's going on leading up to this year's SummerSlam and everything else in between. Fun little episode to do.
Yeah.
And for once, I'm actually outroing without it being a complete shitstorm. We actually had
Well,
like a nice
don't do it
ending
yet. Don't do it
segment.
yet. Don't do it yet. Don't do it yet. I did want to bring up, you know, just to sort of come full circle on this episode. One more SummerSlam moment that meant a lot to me as a young kid. 2007, Rey Mysterio returning to the ring for the first time in over a year. He had been out of action with a knee injury, and he went out because Chavo Guerrero strung him up from the ring pole and beat him with a chair until he had to quit in that SmackDown I Quit match back in 2006. And as a young kid who was literally just getting into wrestling, not, you know, a couple of months earlier, and someone who gravitated to Ray, and, you know, and we talked about before, you know, we talked about on our little pre-show chat how much easier it was to watch wrestling when we were little and we were unburdened by all the politics and all the curtain pulling and all that sort of stuff. So as a 10-year-old kid watching this and watching Ray just get beaten and his knee shattered and have to go out for surgery, and I'm like, oh my God, I was crying. I was so sad watching that match. I wasn't sure if I was ever going to see this guy again. And so you fast forward, it was SummerSlam 07. He came out completely painted head to toe in silver body paint with silver pants on. And he beat that son of a bitch, Chavo Guerrero, and I just so happy. And I would be remiss if we had a SummerSlam show without that, because that is probably my favorite SummerSlam moment. My first SummerSlam moment, really.
Yeah, well, getting into the, getting into wrestling at that time, especially with how much I know you love Rey Mysterio, that was, yeah, cool little moment to kind of wrap up the episode. Cool little...
Now you could do your outro, and I hope I didn't jazz it up.
Oh no, that's fine, because you know how I am with outros. We've talked about it many times. It's just kind of like this, and then I'm like, do I press stop record now, or do I press stop record now? But that'll do us this week. I hope you're enjoying everything this week on Reverb Radio. I will, of course, be back next week as the kind of, I guess you could call it the go-home episode before SummerSlam and TakeOver. We got TakeOver next week as well, if everyone's...
Yes, TakeOver pornography.
Triple X. Let's go. I'm sure we'll have a lot to say on Io Shirai versus Dakota Kai.
That's gonna Shirai Kai. That's gonna be a good one.
I'm excited for TakeOver, and I'm excited for SummerSlam. So wherever it may be, who really, I guess the intrigue. Maybe we'll know by next week. Maybe we won't. Maybe we won't know where it is.
It's very possible they'll just run with it's coming from an undisclosed location. We might never really know.
Who really knows?
It's actually kind of cool, low key. Like
I do too.
I like it. Just like in a building somewhere and you just don't know where it is. That would be fun.
Yeah, we'll know more next week, I guess. I'm sure. But until next Friday, if you're not listening to anything else here on Reverb Radio, make sure, of course, to follow both me and Kevin on Twitter. Our links are all in the description below. And, of course, follow everything with Reverb Radio, my Twitch, everything else like that. Until next Friday, we'll see you on the next one. See you later.